Do not do the evil, and follow the good. Wang Yangming aspired to be a sage all his life, but his father opposed it, thinking that his ambition to be a sage was nonsense, because only a few people in history could become saints, and his father thought Wang Yangming was just a pipe dream. However, Wang Yangming never stopped, and always marched towards his goal. He said that what a saint should do in his life is to sow joy in the world. He believes that life is richer because of love. Kindness is a feeling inherent in our soul, and doing good is a virtue. Good deeds can not only help people in difficulties, but also comfort their hearts and improve their self-cultivation. When we give our flowers to others, we already smell the fragrance of them. When we throw mud at others, our hands are stained with mud. Instead of suffering from loneliness in estrangement and apathy caused by self-centeredness, it is better to get out of the self-closed heart and feel happy in the harmonious interaction with each other, which is a cry and desire for life. Selfish people think about themselves all the time, while ignoring the rest of the world. They always think that the whole world exists for him, and the earth rotates for him. Once upon a time there was a man who was very tired and thirsty after a long journey. When he saw a clear trickle flowing from a channel connected by a bamboo tube, he ran to hold water and drank it. When he was full, he said to the bamboo tube contentedly, "I've had enough, so don't flow anymore." After he finished, he found that the water was still flowing carefully, and he was angry in his heart. "I said I've finished drinking. I told you not to flow anymore. Why do you still flow?" When someone saw him like this, he laughed to himself, and came forward to drive. The guide said, "You really have no wisdom. Why don't you leave yourself, but ask the water not to flow? I hope the water flows only for myself. But it's just selfishness. No matter who it is, there will be selfishness, which is a defect in human nature, but this defect is not incurable. Even if we cannot abandon the ego and become the greater self, there should be basic benevolence, which can help people abandon selfishness. And it can make people understand that their attitude towards others is the attitude of others towards themselves. Most of the time, we do not need to do anything specifically for others, as long as we think of ourselves and think of others at the same time. Then selfishness has begun to move away, and a win-win situation begins to enter people's lives. Wang Yangming said that people can see heaven and earth as a whole, not because they deliberately think this way, but because they have a good nature and benevolence. They love others, love all living things, and regard others and all things as part of their own body, which is a manifestation of this kind-hearted nature. So, living in this world, everyone can be both a giver and a receiver. Everyone needs help sometimes. So it is better to be generous and unstingy when others are in need of help, then they will not feel guilty or embarrassed because of their stinginess and arrogance when accepting help. Wang Yangming believes that there is no good and no evil in human nature, and the so-called good and evil are the differences caused by the human heart. And he himself always has a good heart, and has done a lot of good deeds from an early age. He tried Ma Zhuangguan and was determined to wipe out Tata, serve the motherland and save the war-torn people all over the world. Later, he was full of blood but was plotted by villains and demoted to remote areas. He felt that he could not be rewarded for his ambition, and there was no way to serve his country, but he did not give up his ideals. He set up schools in wild places to teach the Miao people culture and truth. The conscience and benevolence advocated by Wang Yangming is not a pure form. But all things in the world should be given benevolence because there is no distinction between internal and external distance. Wang Yangming, who wants to be a saint, further points out that the hearts of ordinary people are the same as those of saints. And it is because of selfish desires that ordinary people are not as clear as the hearts of saints. Benevolence is not only the realm of self-cultivation, but also the noumenon of the human heart. Bai Juai, a poet of the Tang dynasty, liked Buddhist Dharma. Once, he heard that Zen master Bird's Nest, his spiritual practice is quite high, so he made a special trip to ask the Bird's Nest Zen master's residence for advice. Bai Juai asked the Bird's Nest Zen master, "What is the general idea of the Dharma?" The Bird's Nest Zen master replied, "Do not do all evil, and follow the good." Bai Juai snorted in his nostrils and said, "This, even a 3-year-old knows how to say that." The Bird's Nest Zen master said, "Although a 3-year-old can say it, it may not be possible for an 80-year-old man to do it." Bai Juai accepted in his heart, and retired with a courtesy. Judging whether a person's life is successful or not is not necessarily defined by status and wealth. It should be to see whether he can stick to the goodness of his heart, and not be moved. Broadcast, the most regret-free. Great love is selfless, and the best is without trace. We should all have a compassionate heart, help others with our own efforts, and achieve perfection, which is also one of the great realms of life. To be a man and deal with the world. We should always have the most kind heart, and benefit others with a loving heart, which can not only warm others, but also realize the value of our own life. In ancient times, there was a man named Jiheng, who was arrogant and did not like to associate with dignitaries, and often lived in seclusion in the countryside, reciting poems and painting, thinking that he was very wise to do so. On that day, Jiheng came out of his secluded house, and walked to a path. From a distance, he saw several farmers working hard to plant seedlings. He thought it was fun, so he went forward to watch. Jiheng asked one of the old farmers, "Apart from farming, can you do anything else?" The old farmer shook his head, and said, "I'm a farmer. I don't have any other skills. I only know how to do farm work. In particular, I have a good way to grow goods. I can sell them at a high price in the market. The official also buys goods from me. Since last year, I have taught the villagers in the village how to grow goods. After a year, everyone has had a good life." After hearing this, Jiheng said to the old farmer, "Don't you just enjoy such a good thing by yourself? Why let everyone learn to grow goods? If you have a stable life of your own, you can be as carefree as I am without having to work in the fields on a hot day." After listening to this, the old farmer meditated for a while and said, "I have a big gourd. It is not only as hard as stone, but also the skin is so thick that there is no gap in the gourd. I'd like to give you this big gourd." Jiheng, the gourd can be eaten when it is tender, and when it is not eaten when it is old, it can still hold things. But you say that this gourd of yours is useless. Only the skin is thick, there is no gap, and it is too hard to be cut open. A gourd like this cannot be loaded or filled with wine. What old farmer I wanted to laugh and say, so is absolutely right. But has your husband ever considered such a question? You'll live in seclusion, full of knowledge and skills, but it is not good for others. Aren't you the same as the gourd I just mentioned? Even if a person has amazing talent, but cannot benefit others, it is just a porcelain vase and decoration, which will not make sense to himself, to others, or even to the country. In the view of the old farmer, this is where Chi Hung failed most. A person who only cares about himself, and forgets others means that he has come to a desolate place. And although there are scattered lonely leaves under his feet, he is full of desolation. It is difficult to measure the impact of doing good deeds, and the value of one's life. Great love and selflessness, doing good deeds is not to attract the attention of others. What life requires us to do is to open our hearts to love others, sincerely love others, to comfort the frustrated, to comfort the injured, to inspire those who are depressed.